Hey, what's up? It's your man, Ben Rotten. Today, I'm going to bring you some of my Christmas joy. I want to talk about one of my favorite Christmas movies of all time, It's a Wonderful Life. I don't know what it is, but these white people just come into my life at Christmas time and just make everything right. I love this movie, man. I really do. I really do. Well, I didn't have to toss the box like that, but you know what I mean. James Stewart plays George Bailey. You know, he's a pretty good dude. He lives in a town called Bedford Falls. When he was a young boy, he worked at the pharmacy. Two little girls had the biggest crush on George. One of the little girls, her name is Mary. She's very subtle about it. Then Violet comes in the store. You can just tell she's gonna grow up to be the town whore. She says things like,
I like him. You like every boy. What's wrong with that?
At 9, you probably shouldn't be worried about boys. George's dad and his uncle, they own this place called the Bailey Building and Loan. There's this man that lives in town, Mr. Potter. God, he's so mean! Mr. Potter and George's dad, they were getting into this heated argument, and Mr. Potter called him a failure. So George walked up to him.
He's not a failure. You can't say that about my father. You're the biggest man in town.
Run along.
Bigger than him.
Run along.
Bigger than everybody.
Thus, the feud started. Jump forward a couple of years. George is about 21, 22. He was supposed to go to college. His dad saved up enough money to send him and his brother Harry. Harry's a hottie. George will go to school first, and then Harry will go to school after George comes back. It's the night of the big dance, and Harry's like, hey George, come through. And George at first, he's like, nah, I ain't gonna go. Let me stay home with my dad. Him and his dad get into this discussion. His whole mission throughout his entire life is, I'm getting the fuck out of Bedford Falls. He wants to see the world. He wants to just see everything. He explains this to his dad. His dad was like, you know what, George, go get you an education. You a talented dude. Go do what you gotta do, man. After that emotional exchange, he goes to the dance. He sees his man, Marty. Harry the hottie is there. And it's this dude named Sam Wainwright, who's just a douche. There's always that one motherfucker that you just look at and it's like, one of these things does not belong here, and it's you, bitch. Because he does this weird ass shit. He'll walk up to them and he'll do some shit like, what the fuck? Don't do that shit in public. And of course, you know the town whore is there. The mattress queen herself, Violet. When you look at her in that one scene when she's a little girl, you just look at her and you're saying, so many dicks. So many dicks are gonna go up in her. Violet has this huge crush on George, and she's walking around with her dance card, because you remember, it's the 20s. Back in the day, people actually used to dance. If a woman gave you permission to dance, she would take out a card. Hey, here's my dance card. Why don't you fill it out and then we'll dance? Unlike today, where you could just walk up to somebody, grab them on the ass, and 15 minutes later, she's sucking your dick in the bathroom. Let's be real. You know this shit happens. It's probably happened to you. Everyone's here. The gang's all here. And then Marty's like, yo, George, guess what? My sister here. Why don't you dance with Mary? Give her the thrill of her life. Mary's the little girl that loves George so much. He walks towards her and she stops and she looks at him and she gives him what my cousin Troy calls the dick-sucking eyes. You can tell she wants it. She's with this other dude. She sees George and pretty much pushes dude to the side, and they start dancing. Then they have the Charleston contest. You can tell this shit is old because the Charleston is like the big dance back in 1928, you know. They're dancing. The guy that got shunned, his homie walks up. Did you know that there's a pool underneath this dance floor? George Bailey is dancing over the crack. They open up the pool. So everybody else is like, oh no, fuck this. We ain't trying to get wet. Not George and Mary. They don't even realize that the pool is opening. And eventually they fall into the pool. But they keep dancing. There's a lesson in that shit. Even if shit don't go your way and it's fucked up, just keep dancing. You can see that they're starting to fall for each other, and at one point this old dude is like, kiss her! And then as he goes to, you know, argue with the old head, Mary runs off. As she ran off, her robe came off. She's completely booty ass naked in the bush, and as she looks through the little opening in the bush with her dick sucking eyes, George is about to throw her the robe, and he's like,
Wait a minute. What am I doing?
I can see you naked! He just walks around with the robe, and I think he probably would have gave it back to her, but unfortunately, Uncle Billy and Harry the hottie drive up in their custom Escalade with spinners.
Come on home, quick. Your father's had a stroke.
And unfortunately, Mr. Bailey passes away. The building loan has to keep going. But of course, you know, Mr. Potter and his evil ass, fuck this building loan, break this shit down, give me all the money. Like, that little evil motherfucker that I can't think of right now. Somebody will be like, hey, give me all the money. You know, somebody like that. At the meeting, Mr. Potter says something like,
Peter Bailey was not a businessman. That's what killed him.
And George springs into action now. Hold up, motherfucker. He chews Mr. Potter's ass out. George is getting ready to leave, but he was getting ready to go to school. So one of the board dudes comes out, George, they want to keep it open. And they was like, there's only one condition. You have to stay on. And George is like, no, fuck that.
I'm leaving right now. I'm going to school. This is my last chance. Uncle Billy here. He's your man.
But George, they'll vote with Potter otherwise.
You know he wants to leave, but you know he can't leave. Another 4 years passes. The new plan was send Harry to school. So he comes back, and George is like, now that Harry's back, I'll go to school, get my education, I'll finally get a chance to get out of this motherfucking town. He gets off the train, and you see this broad just milling around in the background. All of a sudden, Harry's like, wait, I have a surprise. She's like, I'm Ruth. I'm married to Harry. And as they were walking away, she reveals that not only did Harry get married,
My father offered him a job.
dun dun dun. That's not part of the plan, bitch. He's pissed because he's supposed to leave. And now that Harry got a job and he got a wife, he gotta stay in Bedford Falls for who knows how long. So there's a big party at the Bailey house. George goes outside to smoke. Then his mom come outside. She's not very subtle about anything. She's pretty much like, hey, Mary's home, motherfucker. Harry done got married. You gotta get the fuck out. Go holler at Mary.
Can you give me one good reason why you shouldn't call on Mary?
Sure, Sam Wainwright. Yeah, Sam's crazy about Mary.
Hee-haw, fuck that nigga. She points him in the direction of Mary's house. So George goes to see Mary. Mary's all happy. George comes in. She tries to start a conversation with George, but he's just very adamant on not saying anything. And Mary's mom doesn't like George. The mom calls downstairs and she's like, Mary, what are you doing? Who are you with? And she's like, George Bailey. And then she's like, what do you want? And Mary's like,
He's making violent love to me, Mother.
he's making violent love to you. Really? It's a wonderful jizz. He leaves. George comes back. He professes his love to her. So he gets married to Mary, and then they have like this big stack of cash, like $2,000, which was like $1 trillion. This was during the time financial institutions were all in peril. There was a recession. Not like today where there are thousands of jobs. Since George owned the building alone, he went to run and see what was going on. So he sees all his people. He's like, what the fuck is going on? He gets inside. Billy, what the fuck is going on? Everything's fucked up. Damn. Mr. Potter calls.
If you close your doors before 6 p.m., you will never reopen.
George is like, you know what? Fuck you, Mr. Potter. I ain't got time for your bullshit. And he hangs up on him. Pandemonium erupts. Mary comes in with their stack of $2,000. George to the rescue once again. At the close of business, he has $2. And then instead of going on his lovely honeymoon, he had to go home to his fucked up, dilapidated shack of a house. When he got there, Mary was there and she gives him the dick-sucking eyes.
Welcome home, Mr. Bailey.
And then they kiss. A couple more years pass. You can tell that George is kind of tired of being poor all the time. He goes to see Mr. Potter. Dun dun dun.
I want to hire you. I'll start you out at $20,000 a year.
And as he's shaking his hand, he realizes that Mr. Potter is the devil. So he wipes his hand off. He's like, no, fuck you. I will never work for you. So he goes home to tell Mary, and she tells him that she's pregnant. I'm not sure if this is good news or bad news, because first of all, they're poor. Kids ain't cheap. Even in the 1930s, they weren't cheap. He takes it with a grain of salt, like, hey, we're gonna have a kid. No, George, you're about to have 4 kids.